the end of the day, we're all here for a few decades, and for the most part, we want to be able to live our lives with a sense of joy, fulfillment, and peace. In the past 3 years, I found myself sharing with those close to me that I felt some form of this inner peace, despite nothing extraordinary happening in my life. In fact, only had more challenges to deal with, and from a material standpoint, chosen to have even lesser. So it's been interesting for me to try and understand where this inner peace may be coming from. And today I'm going to attempt to articulate for you why I might be experiencing this inner peace and how I accessed it. I have always considered myself to have been born into very fortunate circumstances, be it my childhood, my education, the way I was parented. So from a financial, spiritual, emotional standpoint, I felt secure pretty early in life. And perhaps because of that, accumulating more of what I already had wasn't doing much for me. That incremental value was limited and it kept me unhappy. And so I found myself asking several existential questions in my early 20s. And I also realized that there's only so much I can stay up in my head trying to find these answers. I had to get on the ground. I had to try different things, experiment, take that action. And as part of that process, the last 15 years has been about living and working in 4 different countries and cultures. This is my 3rd entirely different career. I've been in a marriage for 8 years, now parenting 2 children. And so I let action give me information. And as I let this action inform me, I realized how excruciatingly hard this process is, because it brings up so much of discomfort. It rips you open, brings up ego, vulnerability, identity crisis, anger, greed, so much of stuff that is so deep rooted within us, and it just brings it to the surface. And now you have a couple of choices to either acknowledge all of these things, work through them and move ahead, or not acknowledge them, build a story around it and retreat. And no matter what the challenge was, whether it was learning to do something I had never done before, managing people in a culture where I don't speak the language, or perhaps learning how to create a healthy relationship, or even learning how to mindfully parent my children, no matter what the surface challenge was, I felt that the challenge was to fundamentally cultivate the following internal resources. Resources like resilience, perseverance, discipline, determination, focus, courage, compassion, letting go, creativity, and stuff like this. So the first biggest learning that brought me a lot of joy was this understanding that no matter what my challenge, if I can build these internal resources, I will be able to survive and thrive through any circumstance in my life. But somehow, as I worked through different aspects of my life, and of course I tapped on the collective knowledge that we have historically and at present, looked into frameworks, best practices, models, life hacks, and all of that information that we have out there, and coupled it with the internal resources that I spoke about. And I did get results, definitely did get results, but something was still missing. And that's when, few years ago, I started tapping into something that I had always known but not consciously utilized. I started spending more and more time trying to understand who I was as an individual, what I cared about, what mattered to me, what did I want to spend my time doing over the next few decades. What kind of relationships do I want? What do I value? What triggers me? What do I think about often? Why do I think about it? What emotions do I tend to have? Why do I have those emotions? What does money mean? How much money is enough? How much stuff do I want to have? And really looking into what answers came up for me, even if they looked very different from the norm that I may have been used to hearing about. And as I was getting this loop of feedback and information from within, gaining this self-awareness, the next challenge was to exercise this self-awareness. And that's where all of the internal resources that I talked about came into play. because the self-awareness and exercising it sometimes meant dropping the job that I was in, or changing my career path, or it meant letting go of some relationships, or perhaps letting go of stuff and activities that didn't serve me anymore. And a lot of it required resilience, courage, and all of that. And I realized that nobody else has as much information and access to you as you do. And hence, no one can tell you what's best for you, what permutation, combination, proportion of hustle, of letting go, of enjoyment, or of working hard you need in your life at the stage of life that you are in. Only you truly have that answer. And this is the second thing that gave me so much freedom, sense of peace, and inner joy, is being able to be self-aware, exercise that self-awareness, and contextualize all that I had learned, all that I continue to learn for my life. Because I'm living now based on who I am and not what the world decides, even though I am negotiating my reality with myself and the world at large. And adding a nuance to this, not bringing forth this self-awareness and exercising it in a narcissistic or an arrogant manner, but about really understanding your internal reality and the external reality as well in which we operate, and negotiating this in a way where we are acting with wisdom. And now, how can we cultivate these internal resources and skills that I talked about, and at the same time tap into our self-awareness and be able to exercise that self-awareness with wisdom? The one tool and life skill in today's times that I cannot recommend enough is mindfulness. Research and evidence has shown us that this seemingly pointless activity or set of practices have such a profound impact on our sociology, physiology, psychology, and our interrelations with the world. It allows us to build on these meta skills that I spoke of, the internal resources that we need to be able to do the stuff that we do, while at the same time it allows us to cultivate and really tap into our awareness of ourselves. How do we think? How do we feel? How do we act? Let's tune in and listen to all of that and let that information guide our action with wisdom. And with this power of the internal resources and the self-awareness that we have a great shot at being able to live a life that's true to us, that's authentic to us, and a life that can bring us joy, meaning, and a sense of peace.